So today we're doing the circulatory system, and the circulatory system, this is presentation number 17, circulatory system. And when we say circulatory system, the other name is cardiovascular system. Cardio means heart, vascular means vessels. Heart, I think we know the heart with all these chambers, but vessels is a general name that means many things. It's an umbrella for many things. Arteries, veins, arterioles, venules, and capillaries. Five things. All of them together, we call them blood vessels. Arteries, arterioles, the tiny arteries, arteries and veins, I'm sorry, arteries and veins. The tiny arteries are called arterioles. You put I-O-L at the end. This will be like the smaller one. Venule, same thing for the veins, the tiny veins. And capillaries is the smallest of all. Like if you look at this at the tree, you will see the trunk and you see like two branches, big branches, and out of these branches there are smaller branches until you go to the very tiny ones. The smallest of all are called the capillaries. All right? And we are going to see how the blood goes into the heart and how does it leave the heart? Where is it coming from? Where is it going to go to? So we will follow up with all of this. And again, our focus more on the basics. So generally speaking, why do we have cardiovascular system? This is a very important part. I know it is general, but very important. Why do we have this circulatory system or cardiovascular system? Homeostasis. We mentioned homeostasis so many times. Stabilize the conditions and the numbers in the body. Stable environment, homeostasis. Keep stable environment. So which homeostasis are we talking about here? Not everything, of course. Homeostasis of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nutrients. You deliver oxygen and nutrients in the blood and hormones and others. So it's carrier, deliver, and deliver those to what? To the cells. So I like to say this is like the good stuff. You're carrying the good stuff to the cells. What do you need, cells? I need oxygen. I need nutrients. I'm going to use the oxygen to burn the nutrients and get energy out of it. Without energy, cells die. Simple. You have to have nutrients and you have to have oxygen. Blood will do that for you, which is which is running within the circulatory system or cardiovascular system. Also, hormones need to go to the cells in order to control it, to tell them what to do. Is that the only thing that we carry? No, there are also waste products. So you deliver the good stuff to the cells and take away the bad stuff, which we call it the waste products. Do you mean carbon dioxide? Not only carbon dioxide, but the products of the burn. When you burn the nutrients and get energy out of it, the remnants, we call that the waste products. The other thing is heat homeostasis or temperature homeostasis, because we talked about that before. Refresh our information. You know that if you go out and it's really hot, you see that your body is getting like flourished and kind of pinkish colored because your blood vessels dilate to get rid of some of the heat. So you are stabilizing the heat, homeostasis. On the other hand, if it's getting cold, you will see that your skin is kind of pale, and even sometimes it's kind of bluish, like bluish discoloration or tinge of bluish or purplish, which means that the blood vessels are constricting to keep your heat in so that your body keep the heat and again homeostasis. So these are the basics that you have to know. Since it's basics, you need to know it. So cardiovascular system is two parts. Cardio means heart, vascular means vessels, and vessels are all these tubes taking the blood from the body to the heart, and from the heart to the body. All the tubes together, arteries, veins, arterioles, venules, capillaries. We will see it. And this is a closed circuit. Blood doesn't leave this circuit. You go from the heart to the arteries, to the arterioles, to the capillaries, to the cells. You give the cells what they need and take what they don't need. And then you return back the opposite way, venules, veins, back to the heart. So it doesn't leave this closed circuit. So that's why we say it's closed circuit. Look at this picture right here. So the blue is the deoxygenated blood collected from the body after the cells take the oxygen already. That's why it looks blue, because oxygen in the blood make the blood red and make the vessels look red. Oxygen. So oxygenated is the blue. It will take the oxygenated blood to the heart. It will go to this chamber specifically. It's called the right atrium, deoxygenated, from which it will go to the right ventricle, deoxygenated, from which, look at this blue, not this, this blue. It will go to right and left here. This will go to the lung. The lung will get rid of carbon dioxide and gain oxygen. That's why you're breathing. And then after going to the lung, it will come back. When it come back, it will go to the left side, left atrium, left ventricle, and then it will leave through this. Look at this. This is the aorta, from which it will distribute all over the body. But now it's fresh blood, it's oxygenated blood, it's loaded with oxygen, and so on. Now I'm going to repeat that. Don't worry. So if you look at this picture here, what are the 4 chambers of the heart that we need to know? There is right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. 4 chambers. The upper 2 are called atria. Atria is plural. Atrium, um, this is the single. So those are the 2 on top. The 2 at the bottom are the bigger ones, and these are called the ventricles. How the blood circulate is something that you definitely be asked about in different parts. How does it circulate? The cells, when they receive the blood, they will extract or take nutrients and oxygen out of it, burn the nutrients using the oxygen, release waste products or carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, if it is present in the blood, it will make the vessels look blue because it does not have a good amount of oxygen. Actually, it has more of carbon dioxide. Look at these components, important, and you will be asked about it because it's basics. From the lower half of the body, or the lower, not half, the lower part of the body, this big vein called inferior vena cava will take that deoxygenated blood into this upper right chamber called right atrium. From the upper part of the body, there is another big one right here. It's called superior vena cava. Same thing. It will get, but from the upper part of the body. What do you mean the upper part? The part that's above the heart. You should know where is your heart. It's right here. Under and a little bit to the left of your sternum. We did the bones, sternum. This bone in the front here. So it will collect from those 2. Above the heart will come from superior vena cava, under the heart from the inferior vena cava. And those 2 are bringing this deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. This is very important. You have to know it. And then what? From the right atrium, the blood will move to the right ventricle underneath it. Doing this through a valve because we wanted to move in one direction only, from the right atrium to the right ventricle, and it doesn't go back. That's why we have a valve in between, and we will talk about it. So now, what do we have now? We have the deoxygenated blood that came from those 2 into the right atrium. It moved to the right ventricle. Still deoxygenated? Yes. It's not only step by step. You also need to know oxygenated or deoxygenated. So far, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, deoxygenated from the body. Going to the right atrium, deoxygenated. Going to the right ventricle, deoxygenated. Leaving the right ventricle, it will go to this pulmonary arteries, right and left. Each one of those, like this one right here, will go to one of the lungs. When it go to the lungs, it's blue. It's still deoxygenated so far. One more time. Superior inferior vena cava, deoxygenated. To the right atrium, still deoxygenated. To the right ventricle, still deoxygenated. To the pulmonary arteries, toward the lung, still deoxygenated. Until you get to the heart, I'm sorry, to the lung, anything before that is deoxygenated. Once you go to the lung will get rid of the carbon dioxide and gain oxygen, and that will return back. Look at these pulmonary veins, will return it, but to the left atrium, the left upper chamber, from which a valve will, through the valve, will go to the left ventricle. So what do we have in these pulmonary veins? Oxygenated blood. Delivering this blood to left upper chamber, left atrium, leaving through the valve, going to left ventricle. Is it oxygenated? Yes. Anything after the lung is oxygenated. Pulmonary veins, left atrium, left ventricle, and then inside you don't see it. You don't see it, but you see it after it exits here. From the left ventricle, it will go to the aorta. From the aorta, it will go to the different parts of the body, but it will act like a tree. Like this aorta here is like compared to the tree, this is the main trunk of the tree. And then it's going to divide into like big branches, which are called arteries. The big branches later on will branch into smaller branches called arterioles, which will branch into the smallest capillaries. The capillaries are the ones that um, deliver oxygen and nutrients to the cells and take carbon dioxide and waste products. And now we will do the exact opposite, but the venous side. There is another system that's called lymphatic system. We don't need to know much about it. I'll just give you the idea that the fluid that leave the blood and go to the cells to give them oxygen and nutrients, and then this fluid will take carbon dioxide and waste products and go back. So it leaves delivering the oxygen and nutrients to the cells, and then go back to the capillaries, back to the blood vessels from the other side. The idea is the amount that leave the capillaries go to the cells is more than the amount that will return back. What do you mean? I mean, some fluid will stay in between the cells. Is it going to stay just like that? No. We will take it back through the lymphatic system, and everything is happening for a reason in physiology. What is it? Because this part that doesn't go back through the regular circulation system that we just talked about, it will be forced to go to another system, another route, which is a lymphatic system for a reason. What is that reason? Cleaning it, killing the pathogens, getting rid of the toxins, getting rid of anything that's bad. This will happen. So every time when you do this, part of it will go through the lymphatic system to be cleaned. So cardiovascular system is what? Basics. Heart and blood vessels. What do you mean by blood vessels? All types. Arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins. All of those 5 together, blood vessels. What do you want to deliver to the cells? Oxygen and nutrients. What do you want to take away from the cells? Waste products. What are the waste products? The products of breaking down or burning the nutrients with oxygen, The end product is called waste product, plus carbon dioxide. What else are you going to do? Heat. Heat homeostasis or temperature homeostasis. Lymphatic system, on the other hand, is the one that will take the excess extracellular fluid. What is this extracellular fluid? Extra means outside. Cellular means cells. The fluid outside the cells that I told you about. Some fluid from the blood in the capillaries leave the blood and go in between the cells, outside of it, to give them oxygen and nutrients. Since it's outside of these cells, we call it extracellular fluid. There is extra amount. Not all of it will return back. Some of it will stay in between the cells. Do you mean stay, like stay? No. It will stay temporarily until it go to the lymphatic system to be cleaned. After it's cleaned by lymphatic system, it will return back to the heart anyway. So that's okay. Where is the heart? You guys, I'm assuming that since we finished the skeletal system, you should know the bones. And I told you that the big the individual names, not details. Like you should know that this is the sternum, and these are the reps. 12 right, 12 left. Total is 24 reps or 12 pair. And look at the heart. It's behind the sternum and more toward the left side. The base of the heart is up here, and the apex is down here. It's not like spherical structure or something. I think we know how the heart looks like. The base is like here. It looks like kind of wedge shaped. You know how the wedge looks like? The base is up here and a little bit to the right, and the apex is right here and down and left. Look at this picture. This is the base where these blood vessels bring the blood to the heart and take the blood away from the heart. Where it's located is called the base. And this tip right here is called the apex. The wall of the heart consists of 3 layers. And again, it's just like what we talked about several times, and I mentioned it so many times. Anytime you see a wall, it's endo, myo, and peri. Endo, myo, peri. Endo, myo, peri. From inside to the outside. Endo means innermost. Myo, muscles, middle. Peri, around. Translation. Endo, myo, peri. When you see endo, it's endo, innermost. When you see myo translation, muscles. So the middle layer is for the muscles. So this is what you should remember. MM, middle layer is muscles. And then peri means around. These are the 3 layers. Now these 4 chambers, look at this chamber. This is the right atrium. This is the left atrium. This is the right ventricle. This is the left ventricle. The 2 upper chambers are called atria, and the 2 lower chambers that are bigger are called ventricle. Right atrium, left atrium. Right ventricle, left ventricle. Of course, since these are chambers, it's not connected. It's not open to each other. It is separated by something called septum. So between the right atrium and left atrium, there is a septum, like a wall. We call it the septum. Between right ventricle and left ventricle, there is a septum. And between atrium and ventricle, there are valves. So look at this. I mentioned that already. I will repeat it again because you have to know it. The oxygenated blood from the upper part of the body, and by upper part, I mean above the heart, will come back to the heart through the superior vena cava. Going to what? Going to the right atrium. The lower part of the body, the oxygenated blood will come back to the heart through this inferior vena cava, collecting right here, right atrium. From the right atrium, the blood is going to leave through this valve. What's the valve? One-way opening. You go one way only. You can't go back. So the deoxygenated blood will move from right atrium to right ventricle. What is this valve right here? This valve is called right atrioventricular valve, also known as tricuspid valve. Why did you call it tricuspid? Because it has three cusps. Leaflets, look, 1, 2, 3. Three cusps. It will go to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it will leave through this other valve. We have four valves to know. This valve right here is called pulmonary valve. Why did you call it pulmonary valve? Because it go to the pulmonary artery, and then it will go to the lung. So superior vena cava, inferior vena cava to the right atrium, deoxygenated. And the right atrium is deoxygenated. Passing through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, deoxygenated. Leaving through the pulmonary valve to the pulmonary artery to the lung, deoxygenated. When it gets oxygenated in the lung, it will return back, but it will return back to the left side. Now we finish the right side, which is deoxygenated. The left side is oxygenated. After the lung, the oxygenated blood will return through those two pulmonary veins, collecting the oxygenated blood, and that's why the arrow is red in the left atrium. And it will go through this valve that's called bicuspid valve or mitral valve, going to the left ventricle, and then it will leave the left ventricle through this valve here that's called aortic valve. Why did you call it aortic valve? Because it go to this. This is the aorta. And then it will go to the different arteries, arterioles, capillaries, back to the cells. If you're going to see pictures, it might be these main components right here, okay? Like superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, the valves, and these big vessels. Here is how the valves looks like. You don't have to pay much attention to it. The only thing is just notice how, what do we mean by bicuspid? Look, here is one cusp, and here is one cusp. That's why we call it bicuspid. Look at this, three cusps. All of them are three, except this one. Look at this, bicuspid, two cusps. Look at this, three. So here is the circulation. Again, I'm not going to repeat. I mentioned it several times, but you will be asked about it. I can ask you something like blood from the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, or I can even start from anywhere else. I can say like blood from the right atrium, go to the right ventricle, to the pulmonary trunk or pulmonary artery, to the lung, to the left atrium, to the left ventricle. Or I give you different combinations. So you have to know this sequence. Or I can ask you, is that true or false? Blood in the right ventricle is oxygenated. No, that's false. It is deoxygenated. So this is what you should familiarize yourself with. So here is the aorta. It goes up, ascending aorta. It make an arch, and then it go down. It will give you a lot of branches. These branches are called arteries. More branches, branching, smaller branches, arterioles, then capillaries. Cardiac output is the amount of blood that is ejected out of the heart per minute. Just remember this term. Amount of blood pumped out of the heart per minute, meaning the heart is pumping out blood, collected. Another time, collected, collect. The amount that you collect after a minute, this is called cardiac output. So what's the definition? Amount of blood ejected out of the heart per minute, It's about 5 liters in average. Here are the chambers again. Cardiac cycle, without going into the details. Here is what I want you to know. The heart contract, relax. Contract, pushing the blood out. Relax, receiving blood again. Contract, relax, contract, relax. Contraction is called systole. Relaxation is called diastole. And if you put stethoscope, if you go to the doctor and you're wondering what they are listening to, they listen to the heart sound, which is called lub and dub. It's kind of similar. Lub and dub, dub, like it gives you two different sounds. Lub is the AV valves or the atrioventricular valves between the atria and the ventricle. When they close, they give you that sound. Lub, 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 like this. Dub is the other valves, and it's more like a compact sound. It's not like, just know that lub and dub are the heart sound. That's good enough to know. So the heart pumps the blood out. There are two atria and two ventricles. There is contraction, relaxation. Contraction is systole, relaxation is diastole. From the right side of the heart, the blood go to what? I told you the sequence. Right atrium, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, going to the lung. Returning back, pulmonary veins, left atrium, left ventricle, aorta, and to the rest of the body. And it goes in that direction all the time. There is no change. It doesn't go backwards. It's one way. So since we're involving the lung in this, in what I just mentioned here, I mentioned that the blood deoxygenated come from superior inferior vena cava to the right atrium, to the right ventricle, pulmonary artery to the lung, leaving the heart and going to the lung, pulmonary artery to the lung, and then turning back pulmonary vein. This part only between the heart and the lung is called pulmonary circuit. Then when the blood come back to the heart, on the other side, left side, it will be pumped out through the aorta and go to the body, the different parts of the body, all the way to the cells, and then return back. This circuit between the heart and the rest of the body is called systemic circuit. You do need to know that. We alternate between those circuits. One more time. Blood in the different parts of the body, in the cells, go back to the heart, and the blood that leave the heart and go to the different parts of the body, these two only, alone. I'm not saying the whole circulation. I mentioned the whole circulation, including the lung. Remove the lung temporarily. Blood from the different parts of the body to the heart, and from the heart to the different parts of the body, this part alone is called systemic circuit. Systemic because it goes to all these systems. But the blood that leave the heart only go to the lung and come back. This part is called pulmonary circuit. Pulmonary circuit. Why did you call it pulmonary? Because it's just between the heart and the lung. While systemic circulation between the heart and all the body systems. That's why. So here it is. The whole picture. The different parts of the body. Blood deoxygenated, leave through capillaries, venules, veins. Superior inferior vena cava, right atrium, deoxygenated, and that's why look at this. This is all blue. Superior inferior vena cava, blue, deoxygenated. Right atrium, blue, deoxygenated. Right atrioventricular or tricuspid valve, right ventricle, deoxygenated. Pulmonary valve, the pulmonary artery, deoxygenated. Pulmonary artery, take it to the lung, still deoxygenated. Lung, getting rid of the oxygen, of the carbon dioxide and gaining oxygen. Now it's the other part. Now it's oxygenated blood, and that's why it's red. Pulmonary veins to the left atrium, oxygenated, passing through the left valve, which is bicuspid or mitral to the left ventricle, oxygenated, passing through the aortic valve to the aorta, oxygenated, going to the different parts of the body again, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, until it go to the cells. The cells take the blood, not take the blood, I'm sorry, take oxygen and nutrients from the blood, use it, produce waste products and carbon dioxide that will go to the other side. the other side of the capillaries, venules, veins, back to the heart, and this is the whole entire circuit. So there is a pulmonary circuit between the heart and the lung, and there is systemic circuit between the heart and the systems or the different parts of the body. Now, what type of muscles do we have here in the heart? I'm not going to discuss the details because we talked about this. Do you guys remember the muscles? So it is the same thing. We talked about it. If you remember it, cardiac muscles are voluntary or involuntary? Of course, involuntary. Can you stop your heart? No. Can you slow down your heart? No. Do you have any control over your heart? No. Involuntary. Is it striated? Yes. But branching. Look, this give you branches, branches, striated and branches. One nucleus or multiple? One. Why? Because the only multi is the skeletal system. If you forgot that, means you have to take a look at it again because this is just repeating. Intercalated disc, unique to the cardiac muscles. Now, before the heart starts to contract and relax, there is an electrical system. We call it conduction system. Start from this node that continuously generates electricity. The electricity is very tiny. Start from the SA node, going to these pathways, ending in another node called AV node. AV bundle, bundle branches, Purkinje fibers going to the muscle cells. SA node is the pacemaker. What do you mean? This is the one that's responsible for the pace. What's the pace? The pace is how many per minute. Is it 70? Is it 80? What is it? So pacemaker, it makes the pace. Electrical signal, electrical signal, electrical signal, making the pace. Sending it to through this pathway to the AV node, AV bundle, bundle branches, Purkinje fibers to the muscles. If this SA node is good, it's like it should be regular, meaning if it is 60 per minute, it should go like each second you get one. Contraction, relaxation, second. Contraction, relaxation, second, 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 one per second. This is regular. If it go like one per second, then go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one. Like this is irregular. It should be regular. And this is the nervous system is controlling how many beats per minute. Like if you put your hand right now, your fingers like what I'm doing here, and you put it here on this pulse and feel your pulse and look at your watch, maybe it's 60 or 70. If you start to move around, it goes faster. If you're running, a lot faster. Who is telling the heart to speed up or slow down? Your nervous system. And I'm not going into more details. So intercalated discs is something that you need to remember. It's controlled by the nervous system. It works independent. And let me just, to help you remember this, when we were in the medical school, in order to prove it, they gave us like frogs and sometimes rabbits, and they asked us to open and look at the heart, and we see the heart is like beating, 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 and then they told us, by the way, the heart is working by itself because of the pacemaker. We're like, how about the nervous system? Isn't the nervous system is telling the heart? No, the nervous system is controlling the heart. And we're gonna prove it for you. We want you guys to cut the heart out from that frog or rabbit and put it on the table, to completely alone. And guess what? We found the heart still beating, beating outside of the body. We cut it. We used the scalpel and cut it and put it on the table, still beating, 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 and then slow down and then stopped. Proving what? proving the heart is working independently. It's working anyway. Just leave it alone. It's working. But can we speed it up if we're like exercising or something? Yes. You're just changing the pace, not making it make the pace. The blood pressure, nothing much. I think you guys know if you measure your blood pressure, my blood pressure 120 over 80, that this is the highest and the lowest. The only thing is highest is during contraction, lowest is during relaxation. That's it. So the highest, we call it systolic, and the lowest, we call it diastolic. That's the only thing that I want you to know. What's the blood pressure? The pressure of the blood inside our cardiovascular system, inside our arteries. The blood is passing through it and making pressure. This is the blood pressure. Why do we always get two readings? Like I go even to the pharmacy and ask them, can you measure my blood pressure? Yes, it's 120 over 80. Just understand what does it mean. That's it. What's 120? The highest during contraction. Contraction is called systolic. Systole. Translation. This is just translation. Systole means contraction. How about the lower one? Relaxation. Diastole. That's it. And here's how they measure it. You don't have to know much. I told you what you have to know. And the normal blood pressure, it's actually depend on the age. But again, I don't want you to go into more details. Just know that there is a normal, and if it go above that or under that, that's abnormal. Above the normal, we call it hypertension. Under the normal, we call it hypotension. That's it. Normal pressure. You go above it, that's hypertension. You go under it, that's hypotension. That's it for this course. But for your own information, just if you're interested to know, if you ever measure your blood and you find it hypertension or hypotension, meaning it's not normal, this is for you. So I measure my blood pressure now. I found it over like 150 over 100. Ooh. Oh my God, I have hypertension. No, that's not true. One reading is not enough. 3 readings. Doctors and nurses, they know that. If you go like, I have hypertension, I got 150 over 90. Do I have hypertension? They will say, no, it's one reading. We cannot conclude. We have to measure 3 times in 3 different occasions. And if it is in the 3 times high, I will say that you have hypertension. Again, this is only for your own information, if you're interested to know. There are a lot of things controlling or affecting the blood pressure and contributing to hypertension. This is only if you're interested to know. I think we know that if you're obese, you have hypertension. Smoking make hypertension. Stress, a lot of salt. Only if you're interested. On the other hand, anything that's healthy lifestyle will be against hypertension. It's good for you. Something like exercising and less salt and stuff like that. Again, this is only if you're interested to know. So again, pressure is 2 components, systolic and diastolic. Systolic is the highest, the peak during contraction. Contraction is systole. Diastolic is the lowest one during relaxation. And that's why you have this reading. Here is again the circulation, and I repeated that. I mentioned that how it goes, leaving the heart and going to the blood vessels, and I talked about the different circulations. But here is what I mentioned several times, and here I want you just to see it. From the heart to the aorta, we call those arteries, like the big branches of the tree. Those are the big branches, this and this. So the big branches leaving the heart, arteries. Sub-branching, branching further, arterioles. What's after the arterioles? This, capillaries. These are the smallest of all. When you go to these capillaries, this is where part of this, uh, part of the fluid of the blood leave and go to the cells to give them oxygen and nutrients. And then this fluid, most of it will go back on the other side, loaded with carbon dioxide and waste products to the venules, to the veins, superior and inferior vena cava, back to the heart, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, other side of the capillaries, venules, veins, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, back to the heart, aorta, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, superior vena cava, back to the heart. I told you that the fluid that leave loaded with the good stuff and then come back loaded with the bad stuff, not all of it go back. Part of it go here, lymphatic system, to be cleaned. These are the different layers of the arteries, always three layers, inner and middle and outer. The middle is always muscles. Here is arterioles. It doesn't have the outermost, this. These are the capillaries, one cell layer, just one cell layer. And these are the smallest branches. On the other side, veins, same three layers. But one thing that I wanted to know, difference between veins and arteries. Listen to this. This is important. Arteries is what any vessel that take the blood away from the heart, you call it artery. That's it. Any vessel that take the blood away, I'm sorry, I mean back to the heart is called vein. Basics. I'm not asking you to know the details. What is artery and what is vein? Artery and its branches it's all about direction of the blood. What's artery by definition? Blood vessel carrying the blood away from the heart. How about the blood vessels that take the blood back to the heart? Veins. I think this is the basics. What's artery and what's vein? Direction of the blood. If you take the blood away from the heart, artery. If you take the blood back to the heart, vein. That's it. The other thing is the veins have valves. The arteries do not have valves. Good enough to know. Here are the valves. And if you wanted to know why the valves, because when you bring the blood back to the heart, most of the body is under the heart. You know what is your heart right here? So above it is just your shoulder and your head and neck. But under it is the whole entire body. So you're going up, up, up in order to go back to the heart against gravity. That's why you have valves to help you like go up and don't go back down. And the muscles also help you squeezing it up. In some people, if the blood stay in the veins, it can like dilate, and we can call those varicose veins only if you are interested to know. If you ever see somebody having like especially in the back of the legs, if you see these like dilated veins, bluish, and you're wondering what is this is the veins, and the blood is more stagnant. The blood is accumulating there, making it wider and more obvious. It have a lot of reasons. I don't want to go through the details, but one of them is the valves are not good enough. So the blood is trying to go up toward the heart in the veins, but and shouldn't go backwards. If the valves are not good enough, it will go back. Varicose veins, only if you're interested. Otherwise, here it is, same thing. What's controlling our blood pressure? there is a center in the brain that's controlling the blood pressure. If it goes up, it will bring it down. If it goes down, it will bring it up in your brain. Which part of the brain specifically? Something called the medulla. The blood vessels, when you dilate the blood vessels, vascular dilation, dilation of the vessels, we call it vasodilation. When you constrict, we call it vasoconstriction. Vasodilation, vasoconstriction. Wider, narrower. Dilation wider, constriction narrower. Why are we doing this? Dilation and constriction. Do we actually do that? Yes. You dilate, blood pressure drops. When you constrict, blood pressure goes up. This is one. The other thing is you dilate if you wanted to bring more blood to one of the organs. You dilate, make it wider, more blood goes. There are receptors, are called baroreceptors in parts of your arteries, like in these two locations. And baro means pressure. The pressure receptors simply detect the blood pressure and give this information to the brain in order to be able to do the work. So here are arteries. Take the blood away from the heart. Veins back to the heart. They contain valves. V. Vein valves. Vein valves. Capillaries are in between. Just in case, if I ask you, what kind of muscles in the heart? Cardiac muscles. What kind of muscles in the blood vessels? Not cardiac muscles. Smooth muscles. Cardiac muscles exclusively inside the heart wall. That's it. But the vessels are connected. Yeah, this is another issue. I don't care about that. It's connected, yes. Is it heart? No. Then it is not. It's smooth muscles. This is just showing you how oxygen leave the capillaries, go to the cells. The cells take it, use it to burn nutrients, getting energy to survive, to live. Then getting rid of the waste products that goes back. Look, part of the fluid leave with oxygen and nutrients, and then it go back with carbon dioxide and waste product. This is happening all the time. But I already mentioned the part of the fluid that leaves is more than what goes back. How about the extra, the difference? Like 10 millimeters leave, 10 milliliters, and 8 go back. How about the 2? Lymphatic. Why are we talking about the capillaries specifically where this fluid leaves and go back? Because it's one cell layer, plus it contains tiny pores that allow that to happen. And that's why only capillaries are the one that allow for this exchange that I talked about. How about the arteries? Nothing. It's just a carrier. Blood go through it. That's it. No exchange. How about the arterioles? No. Only capillaries. It's thin enough to allow exchange. Thin and has pores. Here are the capillaries. This is the arteriole. That's after the arteries, arterioles. And then it leave it and go to these capillaries. Blood leave, not the blood, I'm sorry. Part of the fluid of the blood leave, go to the cells from this side, the red side, and then go back from the other side. When it leave, it's loaded with the good stuff. Go to the cells, take what they need, and then we'll go back loaded with the bad stuff, going to the venules, veins, superior and inferior vena cava. Too much. Okay, so that's it. The rest is as usual. Summary of what we talked about. So that's good enough to know. And